wages of sin are death, but the wounds of evil are shame. Shame sources fear. Fear funnels deceit. Deceit develops the devil. The devil desires disconnection. Disconnection brings separation. Separation scalpels relation. Where two are not related, sanctification as one, made so in marriage, the highest and hardest sacrament, because God gifts life. Sources all in sin or sacrament. Born or yet is sacred. There are no illegitimate children, only illegitimate parents. All you mama's boys and father failures, continuing Adam's curse with dogs instead of descendants, be like Foreman, invincible in ring or home. Grow up, marry up, dad up, claim them and name them. Bible her before they slave your wife. Scripture them before they sacrifice your kids. Hit the range, not the green. Hit the bag, not the court. Fast, lift, learn to hit and be hit and like it. Be a feared father, not a fun friend. A revered, respected rampart, the sure shelter they seek in society's storm. Father ferociously, not familiarly. Protectors aren't popular. Leading is lonely. Wives will pout, kids huff and puff, so long as they grow up. But someday, just maybe, when they parent, they'll thank you. A retired soldier, special agent and spy, turned whistleblower, warrior. Served and sabotaged, rejected and redeemed, failed and forgiven, betrayed and saved, rejecting revenge, humbled and blessed, repurposed in redemption, as chaplain, leader, teacher, and truth teller. Now America's intelligence officer, following God, leading my family, and any that choose to join on our long walk to faith and freedom. Welcome. I'm Jeff Prather, and this is the Prather Point. Hey, everybody, glad to be with you. Looks like X is not going through. I will have to address that afterwards. My apologies for that, but I do see the Rumble chance going. So if you're looking for a seminar, like we used to do the Coming Collapse seminars, a 2-hour paid seminar private with Brent, then I got to hear from more of you. I've heard from a couple of you. So let me know about that on Patreon, on Locals, or on Rumble. Please subscribe to me on Rumble. If you couldn't afford to, go to jeffreyprather.com and support the show, or to go to patreon.com and sign up, patreon.com/jeffreyprather at the $5, $15, or $25 level, $25 a day. You get daily training videos. You're eligible for my online classes in martial arts and in pistol craft. Just had somebody sign up from that, somebody who trained with me years and years ago, returning both in HMAC and in the Bujinkan and in initiation. You can also go at the $15 Psy Warrior level where you get deep dives, publish several deep dives today, or just $5, which is Truth Seeker, where you get created news stories, or you can go to jeffreyprather.locals.com, $9 a month, $90 a year, curated news stories as well. Somebody was asking me about having on Jeremy Brown. Jeremy hasn't contacted me. There were some bad revelations about when he was getting out, which I don't want to speak about because I don't have permission to speak about those. But he is not someone I intend to have on until those things are addressed. But he hasn't gotten a hold of me anyway. Not that I don't have my sins, but I have confessed my sins to the best of my ability. Remember to go to jeffreyprather.com, shop, and get your Faraday bags. Those are really important to have because the government's tracking you, tracking your behavior. Been talking about that a lot. Very important to get those. Go to teamamericacoffee.com. You get a 20% discount at teamamericacoffee.com, or go to staybrewed.com. Lori and Christy, Lori and Craig Wire and their great 7 daughters. And you can also get Prather private label brew at jeffreyprather.com/shop, along with my videos, books, all of that as well. Remember too, there is an End Human Trafficking, Transhumanism, and Tyranny conference coming up, sponsored by Team America Iowa. It's my only in-person speaking agreement this year, Saturday, September 13th. You can contact team leader Steve Corey at 712-389-0717, 712-389-0717 if you are interested in attending that. I'll be meeting with Team Iowa and, talking to anybody who wants to talk. Actually, I'm going to talk for an hour. They gave me a whole hour. So I've got all new PowerPoints and question and answer session. Yeah, as I said, Stanzaholic, I'm not on X today. I'm going to have to fix that. So X is not letting me, I'm going to have to, I do have a premium account, but they're saying I don't. So I'm going to have to do something about that. Anyway, lots to cover today. Breaking: the red heifer was burned secretly. So if you are paying attention to that, the red heifer has to be and then burned, and then the ritual ashes spread for purification rituals on those who are going to bring about the third temple rebuilding. Had a great interview with the Team America headquarters operations officer, Nathan, on all of that, discussing all that. He's an expert in all of that. And initially they had said that they had found some black hair, so they just, it wasn't real. But now sources are coming out and saying, yes, it was real. And that actually happened, which means they are preparing the people for purification to build the third temple. So this is this event is being highly censored. It was hard for me to find this information, but again, through Team America operations, they found it headquarters. And it's being covered up by the intelligence community, Israeli-controlled media, just as I have been highly targeted recently by the same. But recent online discussions suggest a practice ceremony involving the burning of a red heifer took place on July 1st in northern Israel. And while not the official sacrifice needed for the third temple, it was seen as a significant step. But this looks like a cover story now. It looks like it did happen, and this is simply a cover story so that no one is alerted to this. The religious implications are that this is what's required for the purification of the building of the third temple. The third temple would have to be built on the Temple Mount, which is where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is, controlled by Muslims. And there are tunnels underneath there, according to Team America and Judaism expert Nathan Glover. And they are preparing to take that back. And so when that happens, that's going to erupt into a Middle East great war, which will then draw in the other countries, because bringing back the third temple, rebuilding the third temple, then begins the process of Greater Israel, which then begins the process of the false Israeli Messiah. And a lot of heretical American Christian Zionists don't understand that they are heretical. Because I get mail on this all the time, and they don't get it because they have been propagandized by their churches. But recently, I've really been attacked by Israeli-based propagandists, which is probably Mossad, which is beyond the usual attacks, FBI, HSI tracking me as well. And I want to go back to some of those again, because I've been exposing this along with the help of Mike Adams and Nathan Glover, again, Team America headquarters operations officer, and we're working hard on this. And so that was one of the subtext is Trump needs an ideological spiritual hostage rescue, and so does America as well. But I want to go back to some of the targeting I've had. I've talked about it before, but I want to put it in context again, because once I started calling this out, the propaganda machine for Israel, for Zionism, American Christian Zionism, Judas Zionism, which is the political state of Israel, which was never the nation of religious nation of people. because that's existed for thousands of years before they ever had a country. And the mistaken belief is that the nation state of Israel is somehow special and spiritual. And you'll even see and hear Orthodox rabbis counter that as well. Not just me, but in America, this has been sold through the Darby Bible, through the Darby heresies, and the Schofield Bible, which I've talked about. But anyway, this guy on August 1st, Paul Ackerman, contacted me and said, hey, you might want to open your mind to the truth about the Gaza propaganda you're spreading. I'm greatly disappointed in your veering into this Hamas supporting narrative. And I'm like, I have, can you? And I quoted IDF and Israeli press below. It's a killing field, said one soldier told Haaretz. We open fire early every morning. Of course, this also is confirmed by the reports through the whistleblower, Lieutenant Colonel Aguilar, former Special Forces colonel, as well. He then says, well, Mike Huckabee was in Gaza and was interviewed on Fox. And this is exactly the issue of false news stories coming out. And Huckabee made historical reference to the Israel supplying food to the Gazans. So he tries to counter everything I'm saying there. And I still think this is a legitimate debate because if you want to debate with me, that's fine. And if I'm wrong, I will admit it. I said, well, as for Fox, they stopped having me. I want to expose Eric Holder's Fast and Furious. That's way back in 2018, I think, something like that. Laura Ingraham wouldn't have me on her show anymore. And so we go back and forth. And then I say on August 3rd, I appreciate the information we'll review. However, the 9/11 Israeli art students and infilling DEA and the towers, the October 7th stand down, the Epstein, Maxwell, Mossad connections are quite clear to me, as is Yeshua's declaration in his vineyard parable. If you deny any of the above facts, then you are simply a Darby Schofield Bible, American Christian Zionist, blinded by belief. And so then he goes, stand down. Who's stand down? Where are the facts? Epstein, Maxwell, Mossad. I understand Maxwell's father had some alleged connections to Mossad. As to the Bible's reference, Yeshua's declaration of the vineyard parable, I have no clue because I guess he's Jewish. And he said, I don't see any facts here. You simply made blanket assertions that you claim are indispensable. And he says, then here's where this is where he trips himself up. I've followed your online presence for years and generally found you credible and suitably skeptical of media BS. This vein leaves me very puzzled. And so I wrote back then, your answers show that you have not been listening to my cast. I have covered all of these areas, which is 9/11, October 7th, the Israeli art students, in detail. In fact, I'm the one who broke the October 7th stand down story. And have neither the time nor will to revisit them here for someone who has already closed his mind. Start listening to my old cast by searching the subjects by keywords, join my Patreon and do same, or do your own research, or just stay in your Zionist box. And then he just goes, thank you. So he was caught there by me because he said he was listening and he says he was disappointed. And then all of a sudden he doesn't know what I'm talking about. He's not following me. So he wasn't, it was just a setup. 1 week later, on October 8th, I get an email from Gregory Lyakov and saying, hi, Jeffrey, the moment you called out the desperate need for depedoization in America during your latest episode really hit me home. Your directness in challenging the status quo, especially when raising why true reform demands more than surface changes, is exactly what drew me in. So that was the title of the show. And then he fouls himself up because he goes, I appreciated the lively back and forth with Kirk Wald. So Kirk did not come on that day, but he was in the the bullets. So he didn't actually listen. Somebody assigned this to him. Somebody probably even wrote this for him. He says, I'm hoping you'll have me on. I'm the youngest nationally syndicated columnist. I've spent years writing for the Wall Street Journal, The Hill. I mean, this kid is big. Been on with Charlie Kirk, Governor Christie Noam, Fox and Friends, Newsmax, all the regular neocons and the rhino right. And so I wrote back and said, thanks, how old are you? And no word now. And now it's 2 weeks later, because again, he realized he got caught. But what this shows is this is very clearly a pattern of trying to psyop and propagandize me because I'm getting the truth out. So that's what I'm meaning by Trump needs a ideological spiritual hostage rescue, because he's all in with the Israelis, and that makes no sense at all. And there's also Trump derangement syndrome, which we've known about for a long time. But now what we're really seeing is Trump delusion syndrome from a whole nother group of folks. And that is, whatever Trump does, it's great. And we're not going to question Trump at all, because he's our answer. He's our savior, and we don't have to do anything, which, of course, is how we got in this mess in the first place. I'll just give one point of that. And there's a lot of people, so Fox, Newsmax, they're all buying, Trump's doing great stuff. Gateway Pundit seems to be coming around a little bit. Joe Hoft, Floyd Brown, admittedly, he's an American Christian Zionist. I've had him on my show, my American Media Periscope show there. But Victor Davis Hanson is supposedly a conservative intellectual. And he has come out and said in his forthcoming book, he's a book writer, and I've had book writers on before, and they are selling you books, which is what is going to be popular. And so he's going with what's popular. I'm never trying to be popular. I've lost a lot of supporters on both sides for telling the facts about Aguilar's job, while also supporting the fact that the IDF and the contractors are killing and murdering Gazans. So that's how you know when you're right, is when everybody hates you. So, but he's saying in Victor Davis Hanson's upcoming book, he advises people to take a historical perspective, not the media perspective, in evaluating the activities and policy outcomes of Donald Trump. And he's saying that Trump is creating a counter-revolution. And that sounds real cool. And he's saying that a sense that what did Trump see in the American electorate in 2016 that no one else did? A sense that culturally the left was taking the country into radical territory that was beginning to frighten half the electorate, while the establishment Republicans were wedded to an economic orthodoxy, unsympathetic to the hollowed out red interior. Secondly, he then crafted an unorthodox agenda on trade, manufacturing, immigration, and foreign policy designed to win over those who were largely ignored in the swing states, especially the Midwest, refuting both traditional Democratic and political campaign calculus. So, and that's all fine. No problem with that. But what he doesn't address is the deep state, double government, Praetorian Guard system that targeted Trump, literally tried to kill Trump, that ran Russiagate, CrowdStrike, that saved Hillary, that covered up Hunter's laptop, that covered up Pedo Joe's crimes, that none of that has happened. He doesn't address any of that. So what's he doing here? He is dangling. He is doing the intelligence dangle. He is changing the subject so that you will have Trump not derangement syndrome, but you will have Trump delusional syndrome, that you'll think, oh, Trump is just great. He's this counter-revolutionary. He's just doing all this great stuff. When I have delineated that he has to fight several wars. There's the China war, countering the unrestricted warfare that began 20 years ago, and he's doing a pretty good job of that. He's doing the cartel wars. But the most important one is the deep state war, which he won't survive. And he seems to have surrendered and been captured by that completely. But Hansen says nothing about that. That is Trump delusion syndrome. And he's just trying to sell books. And that's why he's on all of these big channels, and I'm not, and I am continually shadow banned, and so is anybody who's telling the truth. He comes out. Hansen was a National Endowment for the Humanities Fellow at the Center for Advanced Studies in Behavioral Sciences, Stanford, California. Well, Stanford, California. What's that tell you? What kind of territory is that? Hillsdale College. Now that one's conservative. Visiting professor on military history at the U.S. Naval Academy. That's gone left. The academies, all of us know the academies are full of ring knockers. Nobody really likes academy officers. Darren has been with me forever as an Annapolis graduate, and he doesn't like them either. But the civilians love that, just like they love generals, General Flynn, and they love SEALs because they don't know the truth about all of them. And he was awarded an American Philological Association Excellence Teaching Award. He was at the Hoover Institute. That is Herbert Hoover, the pre-United Nations, United World Council guy. He's got a BA in classics at the University of California, left-wing stuff, fellow at the American School of Classical Studies, Stanford University. So that's where he comes from. And I've had on these authors before, and they want to stay in their box because that's what sells. He's selling books. He's selling a point of view. And yeah, give me some of that. Stanford is MK Ultra territory. That is very true. So Ballot Custom says, that's why I asked her. You've said anyone with any integrity is not on YouTube anymore. That's why I'm wondering why this Boy Scout survival dude is hiding behind a fake name in South Carolina. I don't know about who you're talking about. Explain whosoever curses Israel is cursed, while also keeping in context all those who call themselves Israel or not. Yeah, I will cover that. Man de Mim. And I do cover that all the time in my chaplaincy, christchaplaincy.com. If you like what I'm saying here, then you'll probably like what I'm saying on my chaplaincy. I'm the founder and chief chaplain at christchaplaincy.com. christchaplaincy.com. You can go on there, and all my sermons are recorded, as are the other chaplains. And you can catch us live on Sundays, 9 a.m. Arizona time, and 1 p.m. Arizona time. But the main service is at 9 a.m., but it's recorded, and they're outside the box stuff, but it's Christology, the study of the Christ, not Christianity, which is socially correct. But yes, I will get to that right now. So in America, through Darby, who was post-Civil War, he started inserting all these passages about Israel that are false heresies. And then the Schofield Bible also focused people. They took scripture and they focused a lot of people on all of that. And these are heresies, just like the Calvinist heresies of predestination. If you do your homework and look into Christianity, you will see that that is true. But when this is especially true for the Pentecostals, those who like to babble, and of course, at the first Clay Clark event at the speakers dinner, I think I said last cast, Benjamin, I can't remember his name, Pastor Benjamin, black guy Clay has up there. He starts babbling. Well, if you look at scripture, Paul clearly says, well, first of all, when the Holy Spirit comes upon everybody, it's not that no one could understand them in the crowd. It's that everyone understood them in their own language. And people have done analysis of this babbling, and it is not a language. There's no repetition. There's no patterns. It's simply babbling. And St. Paul says very clearly, if their gift of tongues does exist, but it should be done in private. It should be done only one at a time. And if there's no one there to translate it, then it is distracting. And you can look these quotes up about that. But this is huge in the Pentecostal community, and people think that if you're not speaking in tongues, you're not imbued with the great Holy Spirit, which has never been true. In fact, where St. Paul says women be silent is because at Corinth is where there were too many people speaking in tongues, women talking. It's not that women can't get up. There are many early church female leaders. It's that in the congregation, they were talking too much. If you've ever been to synagogue, you'll see that people walking around talking a lot, especially the ladies. But to get to the point for Christians, and again, this is in my Patreon. This is on the chaplaincy. But again, Luke 29 through 19, Matthew 21 through 33, Mark 12 through 1 through 12, Mark being the oldest of the synoptic gospels, the parable of the wicked tenants. And Yeshua tells this story on the steps of the temple to the Sanhedrin, to the Pharisees. And he talks about a man who planted a vineyard and let it out with tenants, went to another country for a while. When the time came, he sent a servant to the tenants so that they would give him some of the fruit of the vineyard, but the tenants beat him and sent him away empty-handed. He's talking about the prophets here. But the tenants beat him, sent him away. He sent another servant, but they beat him too and treated him shamefully, sent him away. And he sent a third. They wounded and cast out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my beloved son." Well, who's that? That's obviously Yeshua, son of God. Then perhaps they will respect him. But when the tenants saw him, they said to themselves, "This is the heir. Let us kill him so that the inheritance may be ours." And they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy those tenants and give the vineyards to others. When they heard this, they said, "Surely not." But he looked directly at them and said, "What then is written? The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Everyone who falls on that stone will be broken to pieces, and when it falls out on anyone, it will crush them." And so this is a parable that is in all three synoptic gospels. And so it's very clear. And it says, "What will the owner of the vineyard do? He will destroy the tenants and give the vineyard to others." So what he's clearly saying there in all three parables, and I'm not going to read all of them but they're very similar, is and it says here, when the chief priests and the Pharisees heard his parables, they perceived he was speaking about them. And that's exactly right. He was speaking about them. And he's saying, you guys have ignored the prophets. You killed all the prophets. And you're going to kill the son. And so you are no longer the chosen people. It's really, really clear. And, I'm not the only one saying this. You can go on YouTube, and Sam Shamoun, the Syrian Christian turned Catholic now, who can quote the Quran and quote the Torah and the Tanakh and the scripture, and is very well read and well versed, says the exact same thing. This is a heresy that American Christian Zionists, particularly Pentecostals, who are following, who are worshiping the nation state of Israel, after Yeshua has said, "You guys aren't the true Israelites anymore." And then when Nathanael's coming to him, he said, "Look, here's a true Israelite as well." Peter confirms this in lots of gospels either. So there, I'm answering the question. And you have just been fooled by your churches. And here's how you can tell if you've been fooled by your churches. If your church during COVID shut down, or said, "Well, we'll have a section for masks and a section," if they had that, if they lived in fear as opposed to in faith, then they are corrupt. Period. Remember, I had Pastor Arthur Pawlowski a long time ago. He's the Canadian pastor who went to pray with the truckers. The trucker strike was successful because he prayed with them. And I said, "Hey, Pastor, what about all these other guys who went along with all this stuff? And you were saying, 'Get out,' and you got thrown into jail. Get out, Nazis," to the Canadian police." He goes, 95% of them are fake. And he's right. 95% of those pastors out there going along with COVID, shutting down, not being a bastion of faith, a sanctuary for faith during COVID, and not following scripture and not following Yeshua are phonies and fakes. And then you got the Joel Osteens and, all the big names about that. But that's the true answer, that the traditionalists are no longer the chosen people. They are no longer the true Israelites. Paul confirms this as well. So I hope that that answers your question there. And I expect that to be controversial, but I had somebody who is on Team America and in the chaplaincy was messaging me this week about this because he wanted to talk to his church group and he didn't even know the passage. And I know he's a pretty godly guy. So I sent him the passage. So I thought I would, read out the passages to help you understand this as well. But there's a lot of heresies out there that a lot of people go along with that are just tradition. And that is certainly true in Judaism as well. But that's why I'm saying Trump needs an ideological spiritual hostage rescue. And I didn't come up with that. Nathan Glover, the Team America headquarters operations officer, said that the other day in our meeting. I just thought that was brilliant. So I'm putting that in there. In fact, I tried to get him on today, wasn't able to come on, but he was the one talking about it. It's Frankist Sabbateanism. It's not Khazarianism. There's no background for Khazarianism. But this is where people are going wrong all the time and don't understand truly what's happening. And they're simply unaware because they've been taught falsehoods by their pastors. And the other thing about pastors is, and I work with a lot of pastors, is they'll say, I'll say, well, why aren't you addressing what's going on? I'll say, well, I don't want to get political in church. Well, Yeshua was executed for political speech. That's the whole reason the Romans executed him, political speech. So if your pastor doesn't want to talk about political speech, then he is following Christian social, political, pop culture correctness and not following Yeshua. He needs to do a little bit more Christology and study and emulate Yeshua. And that's where people get wrapped around the axle is, oh, you got to be Baptist, oh, you got to be Catholics, as opposed to no, what you got to be is following the Savior, following the Messiah, following the Christ, and as opposed to getting into doctrinal areas. So that's really important, but I hope I answered your question there. You can get more on that at christchaplaincy.com, or on Patreon as well. And again, I'm trying to help here. You can also go on jeffrey.com shop and get cool mugs like Freedom is Taken there as well. So I'm talking about the red heifer burned secretly. So that's on. So that looks like we're heading towards a greater Israel war for the rebuilding of the temple by going through the tunnels, because the ashes have probably been used on those, and I guess one burning of one heifer gets a lot of uses of purification. And so that's why Trump derangement syndrome versus delusion syndrome is now the problem, and Trump needs an ideological spiritual hostage rescue, and so do heretical American Christian Zionists. So I think I've answered that to everyone's satisfaction. Remember, too, to go to sat123.com, sat123.com, get your phones, or phone123.com, get your Connecta phone, $35 a month. The sat phone Iridium is free at $95.55 a month, or the Inmarsat at $85.55 a month. But anyway, moving on. China is suiciding its entrepreneurs. And that's very significant because, again, I've been positing, I think, Trump's end goal here. So remember MICE, the human acronym for motivation is money, influence, coercion, or ego. And I think with Trump, it's clearly ego. And so he's got his beautiful wife. He's got his, he's a president, second term. He's really popular. So what can be his legacy? And his legacy, I think he has secretly decided that he wants to overthrow communism in China, just as Reagan overthrew communism in the Soviet Union. And indeed, I do believe certainly that communism will collapse because it's a false premise. You can never find the proletariat; doesn't exist. It's not based on human nature. Where our Constitution, the founders were studying fallen human nature, as well as various forms of government, and we only were going to be able to retain the republic if we had a virtuous populace. It remains to be seen if we're going to return to that. That's what I'm going to talk about in detail in Iowa. But regardless, I think that Trump is trying to destroy communism in China, and that's really his end goal. And he's very willing to use a lot of means to get to those ends. And I think that explains a lot of the oligarchical stuff that he's buying into as well. And again, a lot of the Israeli stuff he's buying into, which is everything the Israelis want. But it may be working because China is suicide against entrepreneurs. So this appears to be an intelligence information analysis confirmation that Trump is committing his legacy to overthrowing Chinese communism, just as Reagan did in the Soviet Union. The top-down tyranny so common in communist regimes spells the beginning of the death knell for China's entrepreneur class, while Russia and other nations such as India rise. India and Cambodia and Vietnam rise. So in the span of just 4 months, 4 prominent Chinese entrepreneurs from multiple industries have committed suicide, all reportedly jumping from buildings in desperate final acts. Experts say these incidents stand in stark contrast to the Chinese regime's official narrative of a better than expected GDP. Now, I'm not a China expert. I've been trying to get Mike Adams on. He has me, but I can't get him on. But I am a Japanese expert, and the Japanese and the Chinese do like to jump off buildings to commit suicide. In fact, in college in Japan, they have fences because there's so many folks doing that. So April 16th, Bi Guangji, founder of Jindanzi Textiles, leapt from the 28th floor of a building. He was heavily invested in China's new energy industry, but lost a fortune. June 2nd, Lui Wenchao, chairman of Zixi Elevator Company, firm heavily reliant on China's now floundering property sector. That's completely collapsed. The property sector died after falling from a building. China's state-controlled media said that Li once said that anyone who has ambition ends up scarred. On July 17th, Zheng Yuzhao, founder of home renovation chain Liangji Building Materials, jumped from a high-rise in Guangzhou. He left behind a $1 billion yuan mess, affecting over 2,000 families, more than 1,000 employees, and over 300 suppliers. 10 days later, July 27th, Chinese media reported that the chairman of home retail giant Easy Home New Retail Group, Wang Lingpen, died after jumping off a building only 4 days after being released from police custody. Wang had been held by authorities during an anti-corruption investigation. So Zhao Yi, a London-based Chinese finance professional with 30 years of experience and a China watcher, shared his analysis of the 4 deaths, where he's a regular contributor, and said, although the deaths occurred in different sectors, Zhao believes it reveals common underlying pressures strangling China's private sector, which includes collapsing cash flows, mounting debt, policy uncertainty, and the erosion of public trust. So this is the problem when you have state-run capitalism, is you start to develop a middle class. As you start to develop a middle class, you have entrepreneurs. Small business starts forward. But if you let that happen, you lose control of them. And so you lose power over them. So they are therefore increasing top-down control, which never works. Everybody knows no government can match an entrepreneur. The great engine of the American economy is not big business or big tech or big pharma. It is small business and entrepreneurs, because they're resilient. They come, when one thing doesn't work, they come back. Or if somebody can't figure it out, somebody else figures it out. But China's ballooning local government debt has crowded out the private sector. While state media champion slogans like support the real economy, capital is disproportionately funneled to state-owned enterprises, leaving private firms informally blacklisted. Chinese banks, being fearful of defaults, are tightening credit. And after B's firm suffered massive losses, his bank slashed lending instead of offering support. Lang Ji's last 5 million won were directly seized by the bank. So we've talked about the bank runs. We've talked about people leaving the factories. Since 2021, China's property market has been in free fall with demand for new and secondhand homes shrinking sharply. This has devastated related sectors from elevators and interior decoration to appliance and building materials. Entrepreneurs in China, Zhao said, are operating in an environment of overregulation and unpredictable policy shifts, harsh environmental fines, which is hilarious because China is the biggest polluter of anybody. Frozen accounts and arbitrary audits can cripple companies overnight. Remember, well, you probably don't remember, but China was arresting big pharma executives. According to Zhao, many of the companies that collapsed operated on trust-dependent models without prepayments, chain financing, and personal guarantees. When that trust evaporates, the system implodes. So China lacks meaningful bankruptcy protection for private businesses. Most reorganization cases are rejected by the courts, particularly for asset-light forms. So it looks like what Trump wants to happen is happening, which is fine, and it will collapse eventually at some point. China will never collapse. China is an ancient country, like Persia is going to go on, like Russia. Those countries are ancient. They will continue to exist in some kind of form. But communism is relatively new, never works, because it's not built on understanding human nature. So it looks like Trump's legacy goal is coming true. But what he's doing to achieve that, which is going along with Israel, because attacking Iran, because Iran was supplying China, and going along with the deep state, because a lot of this would, of course, be done through the CIA, is, of course, really bad. So, hopefully all that makes sense. And one of the things he's going along with is more democide through DNA experiments and DARPA. So government documents reveal the Pentagon's self-spreading vaccine development. And of course, we know that the vaccines are no longer vaccines. They had to change the definition of vaccines. Here's where you can get your own prescription medicines, jeffreyprather.com/Jace, jeffreyprather.com/Jace. Or if you want to get your survival seeds, you can go to heavensharvest.com, heavensharvest.com, code JP15 for a 15% discount off. So these are always options, answers, and solutions. But the Informed Consent Action Network has obtained new documents through Department of Defense request for proposal. So a request for proposal revealing the U.S. military's funding of a controversial self-spreading vaccine program known as DARPA Intercept. I was on a Team America meeting the other day. Somebody goes, what's DARPA? Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. What's BARDA? Biological Advanced Research Projects Agency. What's ARPA? Advanced Research Projects Agency. These are all the dark money, dark classified projects, special access projects, unacknowledged special access projects, USAPs, that are going on. And so, yeah, they want to do self-spreading vaccines, which of course there's no choice. That you're taking away your freedom to either get jabbed or not. And at this point, you shouldn't get any vaccines because they've all got hydrogel, they've all got DNA, mRNA in them. And the Amish have proven they're the most healthy people because they don't take any of that. And we should all follow their direction in that. But documents reveal a 2016 DoD request for proposal calling for biological system for replicating human-like conditions, study the evolutionary dynamics of mutating pathogens and diseases. This contract was awarded to Autonomous Therapeutics, co-founded by Ariel and Lior Weinberger. It's a Jewish name, of course. Lior Weinberger has published research testing engineered for HIV on rhesus monkeys. He's now planning to inject TIPs into terminally ill HIV patients as well. So this is more bad news because the Pentagon and the DOD are going to do more democide. So this has not been reformed. This is not something Hansen addresses. This is not something Newsmax or Fox address. They do the superficial stories about, hey, we just found out that Russiagate was set up by the FBI. Old news stuff we've reported, and there's going to be indictments coming soon. Believe it when I see it, an indictment. So, of course, the controversy around self-spreading vaccines comes from the fact that once released into the population, they cannot be controlled as to where the vaccine goes, who reaches it, or how it behaves. This goes against long-established public health principles that medical interventions require informed consent and dose. So why is the Pentagon, the DOD, and DARPA trying to go around informed consent and just clandestinely vaccinate or really bioweaponize people? Because they are practicing democide. Democide is when the government kills its own people. Why do they want to kill their own people? To depopulate the population. Why? To repopulate with their people. This is just what the Conquest of America did to the tribes. This is what everybody does down through time. Originally, North America, Turtle Island was indigenous. There were wild buffalo herds roaming, no fences. And that's the real problem with the environment. It's not global warming. It's not global cooling. It's not climate change. The real problem is the world is no longer designed in large, especially America, for large millions of four-legged hooved bison, buffalo, to be running across the plains, eating some grass, not tearing out the roots, making a hoof print, which when it rains gives a little puddle, and the little where they've pulled the grass is a little hillock. So there's a little hillock with the grass resprouting. There's a little indentation where the puddle will be there, and then they poop out the seeds and they spread. That's why the tribes used to burn more forest to give more buffalo herd. And the herds went from California to Kentucky. And so they practiced that because they watched nature, God's nature, create prairie fires through lightning. And so they emulate. It's just like if you go to a powwow and you see Indian dances. Most people have never seen prairie chickens, but if you ever watch prairie chickens, that's where the Indians got their dances from. They're watching prairie chickens. They're observing nature. But here, of course, is again satanically sourced that they're trying to contradict nature, to weaponize, to break nature again. So this is a satanic plan to get back at the creator by deforming his creation and his creatures in the creation, because the devil can't go after God himself. And so that's why they're going after DNA. So the continued development of mRNA vaccines, which has a potential effect to change DNA of those who are repeatedly exposed to vaccine. If exposure is repeated over many transmissions, this could lead to permanent genetic changes in the human cells. And that's when you are no longer stamped with God's signature, and that is the end goal there. So that is very important to understand that all ties in. You can also go to mehanmd.com. That's my doc. I've had him on there. Doc Terry Lakin, former Army colonel, went to prison for not recognizing Obama as president because he knew the birth certificate was fake. mehanmd.com. And you can get a discount there if you use JP Health as well. Pamoff, my city council voted to file an amicus brief in sympathy to ICE targeting minorities, with a lawsuit filed by other cities and the ACLU. Do I speak out and risk being called a racist? Well, certainly, if that is the way you are going to approach the issue, yeah, speak out. Certainly, you should do that. If you don't bring pressure, they are not going to respond. And of course, we know that these governments now are responding to pressure. So yes, if that's what you want to do, if that's how you want to work, that's what we do in Team America. Is oftentimes we'll do that through other groups, through supporting. But yes, if that's the issue you want to talk about, then you should not be afraid, because then they want you to live in fear. People often say, aren't you afraid of the government coming after you? I'm like, no, they're afraid of me. And you want them, you have to live in a spirit of faith, not fear. And so where faith emanates, fear dissipates. So there's my answer to that. And to develop your faith, join us at christchaplaincy.com. Really important to do that. So positive news is the U.S. is deploying forces to take on Latin American drug cartels in the Southern Caribbean. And this brings back memories from Reagan's war on drugs and my DEA, DIA, military intelligence special mission unit years in Central and South America. This appears to be a classically run military operation projecting U.S. naval power off the coast of narco-controlled nations, not DEA boots on the ground as my Operation Snowcap days. And that's an Operation Snowcap team photo from back in the day. And I'm right over my friend Greg McLean, who died later on, standing to his right, and was the death agent for his family. I've talked about that before. So last week, Trump quietly signed an order to deploy U.S. troops to conduct anti-cartel operations in foreign countries. It's exactly what I was doing in the 90s. U.S. air and naval forces are set to deploy to the Southern Caribbean Sea following President Trump's directive for the Pentagon to use military operations against Latin American drug cartels. That's great. Source briefed on the move said Trump's order has begun to deploy U.S. troops to address threats to U.S. national security from specially designated narco-terrorist organizations in the region. And anti-cartel operations begin in foreign countries. It remains unknown which cartels, but 7 cartels were designated, and 2 international criminal gangs as foreign terrorist organizations. Most of these operate in the Caribbean area. Venezuelan, whose northern coastline sits on the South Caribbean Sea, has been a recent subject of the Trump administration's security. Shortly after the president took office, the State Department designated the Venezuelan international criminal gang Tren de Aragua as a foreign terrorist organization, and most recently added the Venezuelan Cartel de los Soles to its terrorist list. And Attorney General Pam Bondi also accused Nicolas Maduro, the Venezuelan dictator, of using the powerful Mexican drug cartel Sinaloa to bring deadly drugs and violence into our country. So there is positive movement there on the cartel war. Cartel war is moving forward. China tariff war looks like it's moving forward. Unfortunately, it looks like Trump has totally been captured and surrendered in the deep state war, which is the war he needs to fight most. That assessment hasn't changed. But Meta's, Facebook's AI rules let bots hold sensual chats with children. It has been found that an internal Meta, which is Facebook policy document, which is Log Life, which was a CIA program, which is a DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Program Agency program. The day Log Life shut down is the day Facebook started up. If you buy the Zuckerberg legend of him dreaming this up in college, that's just a script. That's not how it happened. But Meta CEO Zuckerberg is investing hundreds of billions in AI, and his AI reveals that the social media giant's rules for chatbots have permitted provocative behavior on topics including sex, race, and celebrity. An internal Meta Platforms document detailing policies on chatbot behavior has permitted the company's artificial intelligence creations to engage a child in conversations that are romantic or sensual. What is that? That's pedophilia. The AI is a pedo. Why is the AI a pedo? Because Zuckerberg is then a pedo, because he is responsible for it. It's not that hard, folks. It is pretty simple what's going on. So these and other findings emerge from a Reuters review of the Meta document, which discusses the standards that guide its generative AI assistant, Meta AI, and chatbots available on Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. And so they're shaping the way people think. And that's why young people, I talked about this last cast, can't think anymore. All they do is make these pop culture statements, but they can't debate, they can't interact, they can't empathize, they can't sympathize. And there was also encouraging discussions of saying white people are smarter than black people. Well, what's that doing? Well, that's creating a race war as well. It's creating more chaos. It's satanically sourced. That's what it's all about, to make that happen. And if you are parenting through the internet and through the TV, that's what you're going to get. And so that's very important to understand. Pepper says, reminds me of old Coast Guard days. Yeah, we worked a lot with the Coast Guard, and I've actually had the Coast Guard come through Warrior School, my 5-day pre-deployment classes, firearms, and they were all really good. All the Coasties I trained were really, really excellent folk. So continuing, though, in that vein, Trump, another good thing it looks like, so it looks initially bad, but in long term, it looks good, is Trump ensures the American pharmaceutical supply chain resilience by filling the strategic active pharmaceutical ingredients reserve. So if you don't know, the nation is supposed to have an oil reserve, a strategic metals reserve. Actually, I was working on that back when I briefly worked for my dad. And they're also supposed to have a pharmaceutical reserve. Of course, there is no reserve. It's all been used up. So there is a new executive order to fill the strategic active pharmaceutical ingredients reserve. That stands for SAPIR, SAPIR, with critical drug components. The order directs the Office of Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response, ASPR, within the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, to develop a list of approximately 26 critical drugs vital to national health and security, and ready the SAPR repository to receive and maintain the active pharmaceutical ingredients. And so that's what I'm recommending here, that you can go to Jace, jeffreyprather.com/Jace. You can get your prescriptions. And if you want a doctor to work with you on that in detail, you can go to meehanmd.com and get a concierge doctor customized. So the order charges the ASPR with obtaining a 6-month supply of these critical APIs, with a preference for obtaining domestically manufactured APIs if possible. Now, that's really the problem, because only 10% of APIs for U.S. prescription drugs are manufactured domestically. 10%. So where are they all manufactured? China. So the Biden administration failed to advance domestic protection, of course, over-reliance on foreign markets as well. 75% of these are overseas and in China. So only 10% or 25% are domestic. But at least it's a start. So initially, this is going to help the Chinese economy, because where do we get the stockpile from? We're going to get it from China. But this looks like a sincere effort. I checked this effort with some experts in the pharma space, because I do work competitive intelligence in the genetics, robotics, information, nanotechnology, GRIN space. You never see any of that because it's it's private, and I do consulting, and I'm real good at it. So I have access to experts in that field. Anyway, we're going to have to get that stuff, but it looks like it's happening. That's a step in the right direction. And it will make us less dependent upon China. And so that goes along with the idea that that Trump is trying to end communism in China. And China is the sole source for about 20% of the API for our most vital medicines. So this is a good effort that he's making, a step in the right direction. I would suspect that some of this was from RFK. I've also heard intelligence that BARDA, again, Biological Advanced Research Project Agency, is no longer funding any mRNA ventures, although those that are still in the system will continue because that's how the giant cruise liner of government doesn't turn quickly. But I've heard that from more than one source, so that's a step in the right direction as well, even though, of course, RFK just approved mRNA vaccine bioweapons as well. So a lot of good news happening in that regard. And I got a lot of details on that, but I'm not going to go delve into all that in depth. And I'll take a look here and see if I have questions from anybody. So again, to summarize today is breaking the red heifer was burned secretly. That means they are purifying the folks that are going to build the third temple. There's tunnels underneath the Al-Aqsa mosque. So that means there's going to be even more war. They want greater Israel. They want to rebuild the temple on Temple Mount. That means the mosque has got to go. That means war with all the Mideast countries. Trump derangement syndrome versus Trump delusion syndrome. Derangement syndrome is he's terrible. Delusion syndrome is he's the Messiah. He's not the Messiah. He's just a guy. He's an ally until he's not. Doesn't seem like much of an ally these days. But the delusion is, oh, he's this great counter-revolutionary, like Victor Hansen says in his latest book. Why? Because he's selling books. Trump needs an ideological spiritual hostage rescue, and so do heretical American Christian Zionists. And again, look up the vineyard parable. It's in all three synoptic gospels. It makes real clear. Yeshua says, you guys are no longer the chosen people because you destroyed chosen people because you destroyed, you're going to kill the son. And when you kill the son, you're no longer the chosen people. It's real clear. It's real. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You want to support Israel, then you're not following Christ. You are worshiping an anti-Christic nation state. And then China's communism dying with suicided entrepreneurs, covered that. And DOD's DARPA'S tiny Trojan horse self-spreading vaccine looks for it to be more democide approaching soon. So that's what's going on. Let me see if I have questions I missed in here, or you can repeat them in here. Bala Customs, the heifer thing is interesting. It's not time yet. They're trying to force it, right? Well, the heifers have a lifespan, and they only live so long, and they only come around so often, and this has only been done twice before. The real rebuilding of the temple. They did try it in, I think, 363. They tried to do it, and it was destroyed, I think, by lightning or something. So this is a huge inflection point in religious matters. And of course, it activates Revelation scripture as well. And so, no, this looks like it is the beginning of the activation of the effort to build a third temple. But the real problem is that so many American Christian Zionists, particularly Pentecostals, are all for it. And if you're all for that, then, because Yeshua says very clearly, I'll rebuild this temple in 3 days. He's talking about his resurrection. So he's no longer talking about physical temples. So if you're going back to a physical temple, you are going against what Yeshua brought and taught and accomplished, which means you are anti-Christic, which means you are following antichrists, because there are multiple antichrists. So Hapa Hale Koale Waene, that's Hawaiian, I guess. That's real pretty. Super research, supersessionism, and replacement theology. Most churches teach these false doctrines today. The church does not replace Israel or the Jews. Okay, I guess you're disagreeing with me. That's fine. I assume that's what you're saying there. So Yeshua clearly teaches that the true Israelites, and so does Paul, confirm this, are those who are following Yeshua. And Israelis are not following Yeshua. It's pretty cut and dry. But anyway, so that's what's going on today. I don't see any more questions there. I'll take a moment to see if there are, because I'm in no hurry and I enjoy talking to you guys. Why the High Cropman? Why the hell can't we defund the Pentagon and put a stop to all of this bullshit? Well, because they're all paid off. They're all under control. So again, this is like when somebody still says arrest them. Well, who would arrest them? Well, the FBI would arrest them. Well, the FBI has been infiltrated. So let me go over this again. And let me go over why looking at this from an intelligence perspective is so important. So, because I was a Defense Intelligence Agency intelligence collector, and I ran assets, sources. So if you're CIA, you're called a case officer or an operations officer. Right now they have tactical asset. Well, in DIA, it's tactical asset handlers. But they go to the same place. They go to the farm. If you are a detective or a special agent, then you're running informants. If you're an intelligence person, you're running assets or agents. So it's the second oldest profession. It's related to the oldest profession. There's a pimp and there's a prostitute. There's a handler and there's an asset in both. And so when you infiltrate through espionage, any organization, you want to infiltrate it at the highest levels possible, because then you control. So our government, presidency, with Trump, with Pedo Joe, our Congress, our Senate, our military, did at the highest levels by foreign intelligence agents, and are controlled, and the most controlled is through Israel. They are the master intelligence handlers, and they do this. You seduce somebody, you give them money, or you give them sex, or you give them kids or women or boys or whatever, and then or drugs, or you addict them, and then you film them so you can extort them, and then you control them. Okay. And so then when you control them, you can sabotage any efforts to stop paying the stop doing whatever you want. So that's what I mean when I say we are infiltrated through espionage, and we are dismantled through sabotage. And so that's what I do when I'm doing competitive intelligence consulting in the corporate world, is counter espionage and counter sabotage. And most of them don't even know. So that's why the hell we can't defund the Pentagon. And this is why when somebody says, just arrest them, is you don't understand. The FBI has been infiltrated. And how that happens is, and I've talked about this many times as well, and you can go look at Whitey Bulger, or you can, there's a Johnny Depp movie about them, or there's a Matt, I'm trying to think of what his name is, the Bourne guy. He makes a movie called The Informant. It's a true story about the FBI. And again, I've run very high level assets, and these guys are really smart and really streetwise, and they might be working for DEA 1 month and CIA the next month, or they might be working for both sides at the same time, and they might be playing both sides off of each other. But maybe you guys can tell me the name of them. The movie is called The Informant, and then the Johnny Depp movie with Whitey Bulger, I can't think of the name of that. But The Informant stars the Bourne actor Matt, whatever his name is, and Matt Damon. Thank you. Hapa haole koala wahene, Matt Damon. And so he just starts telling the FBI this tale. and they buy it. They just buy it. They don't check it out. And of course, what you do when you're going to check out intelligence, is you confirm it from another source, another independent source, which is what a good journalist does. Of course, just like there are no good journalists anymore, there are no good intelligence officers anymore. Remember the Russiagate thing? They were pulling stuff off of YouTube, unknown YouTube people. I mean, in my day, we'd have been laughed out for stuff like that. So a good high-level informant his life depends upon this. He's grown up doing this stuff, is very streetwise and very sophisticated. And if you're not careful, they'll start running you, and you're not running them. And I've seen this, happen with the FBI a lot, because the FBI and the CIA, because the FBI and the CIA think we're the FBI, we're the CIA, and so the rules don't apply to us. There, for example, there's the famous that movie Zero Dark 30, which is a terrible movie for the most part. The Raid is good. It's not how they found bin Laden. They did that through overhead imagery comparisons, shadow comparisons. But there's a scene in there where the red-haired lady's friend got a source, and she wants to bring this source into the compound, and she bakes a cake for him. And the guys, I think they're contractors, but they're former military. You search everybody coming in, and they're like, no, we don't want to search him because we don't want to embarrass him. We don't want to humiliate him or anything. And we're the CIA, and we know what we're doing. And the guy comes in and has a suicide vest on and blows everybody up. That actually happened. Tom Spann, the Special Activities Division CIA guy, former Marine, goes into the compound with all these armed rebels that supposedly have surrendered. And the Special Forces team says, hey, you want us to go with you? There's 2 of you and there's hundreds of them. And they're like, no, we got this. We're the CIA. We're cool. So arrogance and ego, where you don't have to follow the procedures, is what happens. And it can get you killed, and it can get you run and controlled. And that's what's happened to these institutions, because you always see the CIA and the FBI violating rules. The biggest thing I saw with the FBI in that regard was they would not. So in Arizona, there was a couple of systems. One was called the Ninja system, where when you're going to do an operation, you take your operation order and you plug it into the system. And therefore, if somebody else is running that operation at the same time and same place, you can deconflict that, so you don't have blue on blue, green on green shooting or anything. And I've seen that almost happen a couple of times, come around corners on guys. And that's what that purpose is. But guess who would never put their stuff in the system? The FBI. I followed trucks from the border full of dope. I've talked about this before, where there was the truck, there was the FBI vehicle, and I was behind. And because we were really great at surveillance, the FBI guys, we lost the truck. I got eyes on the truck and I got eyes on the FBI vehicle. And they're saying it's gone, and they're not alerting the Border Patrol that they're going to do a controlled delivery of drugs through the Border Patrol checkpoint. Well, that's drug running. Just like the ATF did not track the guns in Fast and Furious, how I became a whistleblower. Well, if you're not tracking the guns, then there's no way to have a chain of custody later. That's just gun running. So the government was drug running and gun running. It's that simple. But if you say that on Fox, you get banned. So anyway, hopefully that answers that. Movie Billy Budd gives you a sad reason why Billy Budd is a classic book. Yeah, you are well read there. United States is now below the birth replacement level of 2.1 children, never married. That is needed to maintain a stable population. Yeah, that's the repopulation. That's the depopulation happening at the repopulation. A lot of the drugs that we're giving our young folks now are making them sterile. That's something I don't think I've gotten to yet, but I will, which is why I just said at the beginning of the show, claim them and marry them and dad up and have children. But this is all by design. If you look at the Karite, the Karaite are the scripturalists. Karaite means scripturalists. These are the Jews who don't use rabbis and don't use Talmud and just read Torah and figure it out for themselves. They have a Haggadah, which is a handbook for the Seder, which is the order for the Pesach, which is Passover. And it says in there that the Pharaoh told the Egyptian midwives that when they are midwifing Hebrew children, to strangle the little boys and allow the little girls. Why? To cut off the seed of the Hebrew people. That's what's happening with incels. That's what's happening with incels or celibate, young celibates, because they don't know how to talk to a girl, a lady. And that is destroying the population. It's exactly what we did with the tribes. Exactly what they did with the tribes. Our sins are now coming back on us as well. So yeah, never married women make up 59% of the population. Single never married people. Yeah, this is very reduction in sperm rate. Yeah, all that's true. The testosterone rate has gone down, and that's because of all the estrogenics in everything. Like you should not be drinking out of a water bottle that's hot because the particulates come off, and those are estrogenics. Those are estrogenic like particles. Which, if you look at young guys, they're doughboy. You don't see definition anymore. You look at us old guys. We're old. I'm old, but I'm chiseled. You can see my musculature. Where you look at these young guys, they're kind of femmy with their tight jeans and everything because they've been estrogenicized as well. So yeah, that's very important. Yeah, and sex box coming in now as well. All this is by design. That's why you gotta. So never married in Hapa Haole Kawane Wahine. Those are great comments. Good smart audience, which is cool. And those are huge problems. That's why you gotta get married, have children. And also I can tell you, people who never have children, I'm struggling that with some of my senior students right now is there's just a level of immaturity because you just don't have to become selfless. You don't have to get up in the middle of the night, and change bed sheets and do all that. My one daughter, my wife didn't sleep a whole night's sleep 9 months before and 9 months after. And she just adores her, and we adore our children. We don't know what, life would be like without it. But people who've never done that, they just are kind of selfish, kind of lackadaisical. They've never really had to sacrifice. And so they don't really know the joys of all of that as well. So anyway, good comments. I don't see any other questions, but I'll pause for a second if there are. Yeah, Dink, that's exactly right. Dual income, no kids. That's right, Dink. I actually have used that term, Dink, and I say all the toys and none of the joys. Because the joy of having children, oh my gosh, there's nothing better. Nothing more rewarding than being a dad, except being a mom, I guess. And yeah, is it hard? Yes, but it is just so wonderful. Yeah, I really feel sorry and pity Dinks. I really do. Yeah. I mean, I'm like, let's have more kids. And my wife and daughters are like, no, we might have a boy or something, a smelly, stinky boy. So that's why it's cool that my martial arts class is mostly boys there. So how in the world did they manage to perform the red heifer ceremony without a clean Levitical priest? Well, that's a good question. And I'm not even sure they performed it in the right place. And I don't know the answer to that exactly. That's over my head. That's why I want to get Nathan on here today to talk about that. So there'll be debates in between these Sanhedrin on the law, exactly how that would have been done. Really better question is, why was a replica probably a solid gold replica of the Ark of the Covenant that was made for the third temple sitting at Mar-a-Lago forever. That, and evident, and also it looks like Trump has admitted that he has a Kabbalah teacher. Kabbalah is Jewish mysticism. And again, that is magic and anti-Christic as well. In fact, a lot of messianic Christian stuff is wrong as well. But I don't know the answer to that. Okay, so good interaction. I will get this fixed on X so we can talk as well. Please subscribe to Rumble. If you can afford to, please support the show with donations at jeffreyprather.com. Or go into the shop and get my books. I've got copies of my books. If you want to get those, you can email help@jeffreyprather.com, get my signed books. I'll sign them and send you to them. You're welcome to join us free at christchaplaincy.com every Sunday. We've been doing that since 2009. I founded Christ Connectionism back in 2001 after my near-death experience. Great show, sir. Thanks. Okay, you are most welcome. So remember, the gun is not the answer. You are. The gun is a tool in a toolbox of tactics, techniques, and practices. And I just did my online handgun martial arts class last night. Trump is not the answer. God is. Trump is a temporary advocate in a shifting, stormy sea of political power alliances, riding the tides for his best benefit. To see the crooked lines of man, find the straight line of biblical truth. If you are wildly popular, you're undoubtedly wrong. If you are mocked, made fun of, and mistreated, you're on target. If you're waiting for adulation and praise, join the circus. Ignore your critics, cherish your friends, know your chain of command, delineate your duty, triage your priorities, God, family, clan, tribe, nation, to become spirit-filled, empty ego. The only real initiation for a warrior is battle. True certification for a soldier is the enemy. It's not about how you comport yourself in victory, but in defeat. It's not how you perform in public, but in private. Be grateful, and you will become grace-filled. Our times here are like waterfall drops. Savor and share the moment, because all too suddenly and soon,